G'day everybody and welcome to another episode of Spreadsheet Skills. Today we're going to be doing a fun task that's going to really show off how strong spreadsheets can be as opposed to manually counting or manually filling in data. So the task today we have is we're going to be flipping 100 coins and we're going to determine who's the winners, whether it's going to be heads or tails. And we're going to do that by using a random number generator that's built into spreadsheets, and we're going to use a bit of if statements, a bit of count statements, and a bit of other spreadsheet techniques. Now, the first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to create a column that's going to be our flip number. So then flip number 1, flip number 2, etc. I'm going to make that bold for heading, Control B for that. And then if you remember, instead of me manually typing in all the numbers from 1 to 100, I can just type a few of them in. Hover over that box in the bottom right. You see how the icon changes, and then we're going to scroll down, left clicking that. So we're going to go down until we get to 100. We're at 87, 97, and 100. There we go. So how are we going to generate these random numbers that's going to determine whether it's heads or tails? There is a formula called RAND, R-A-N-D, and we're going to first create a column, random, Control B, equals is what you always type in when you're making a formula. And unlike other formulas, this one does not have any variables in it. We just have to open the bracket and close the bracket, and we've got our result. So you can see on the right hand side on the yellow columns is what I'm typing in, and then these are the results that are coming out, right? And so I typed in equals rand, and it generated a number between 1 and 0. So it's going to be like something decimal points always, right? And so every time we make a change in the spreadsheet, you can see it's changing what that random number is, right? So we want 100 random numbers, right? So we can do it the same way as we did with the numbers 1 to 100. We can take this and drag it all the way down, right? But I want to show you another technique is in Google Sheets. If you double click on that square, it's going to automatically know that you want to fill the rest of that column up. So it's not going past that, it's not going to infinity. It's stopping right at the 100 because that's where the other column stopped. So that's a really cool feature that Google Sheets has. Now, it's going to be a little bit annoying if we keep making changes to the spreadsheet and this number keeps changing. So what I want to teach you next is special paste. Now, special paste, or paste special, I should say, is when you copy something, and as you know, you can select something, Control C to copy, and Control V to paste, right? But instead of doing that, you can actually right click and paste special. And there's different ways you can paste this, right? We won't go over all of them now, but what we want to do is values only, because what we're doing is we want to care about what these results are, but we don't want them changing every single time. So we're going to copy the column from 1 to 100. Here's another spreadsheet skill, is instead of selecting them manually and then, oh no, where to go, right? You can hold the first one, select the first one I should say, scroll down to the last one, hold the shift button and press left click, and it's automatically selected that 100 for us, right? So that's really awesome. And then instead of creating a new column, we're just going to paste right over the results there. And so you can see right now it is showing us that this cell is saying a formula equals random for each of those cells. But when I paste Shift Control V or right click, paste special and go to values only, it's got those values. So that's really cool. So we've got our values, and we're going to use this. We're going to round this up to either 0 or 1, and then we're going to convert that into heads and tails. So that brings us to our next topic for this video, which is round. Round is a very simple formula. Equals, R-O-U-N-D. I love it when what you're thinking of is the name of the formula, and in this case it is round. So we can type things in manually, right? So we can write, if we round 0.1 to the nearest integer, it's going to be 0. Integer nearest number. But if we try to round 0.9, it's going to jump up to 1, which is really awesome, right? 0.5, I believe, does jump up to 1 as well. Yep. So if it's below the middle, it's going to round down. If it's above 0.5, it's going to round up. And you can do this for other numbers. So for example, like 9.5 will round up to 10, etc. Now, if you remember from a previous episode, we want to reference 0.57. Instead of manually typing that in, we're going to reference it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that cell within inside our round formula and hit enter. And there you go. 0.057 does round up to 0. I think this third one will round up to 1, right? So we're going to see that. You're going to fill. Perfect. And we're going to double click that square there. That's going to fill all the way down to 100. Now, how do we turn these zeros and ones into heads and tails? Well, we do that by using if. If you're familiar with programming, you know if statements are a big deal, are a pretty big deal. And so we're just going to say result in here, Control B. We are going to say if this is a 0, we want it to be heads, and if it's a 1, we want it to be tails, right? So equals if logical expression. Okay, so we want to click on this reference to reference it. If this is equal to 0, value if true. If it is 0, we want it to be heads, right? So make sure whenever you write anything in text or a string, you want to have it in quotation marks. So we're going to say we want that as heads. And then the next variable that we're going to type in is the word tails, because that's if something is not equal to 0, we want it to be equal to tails, right? So we're going to do equal to tails. We're going to close our formula, and there we go. We got the result. We got the formula over here, as you can see. And heads, right? Next one's going to be tails. And yes, we know it's working, so we can double click and let that extend all the way down. Awesome. I don't want to count these manually, do I? I don't want to be like, how many of these are heads and how many of these are tails? Imagine if this was 1,000 coin flips, not just 100. So this is where our next formula comes in. Simple name. It's just called count. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this row here, and I'm going to insert a row above. We're going to do that a couple times, and we're going to have a new header. New table here, which is going to be total heads flipped, right? We want to count every single heads in this range here. So in this column here, we want every single heads. So we're going to say equals count, and then we are going to select to reference, right? So we can do that manually again using the shift button. Is really cool. But the other way to do it is if we knew what the last one here was called, in this case 109, we can just type that in our formula. So we're starting at D10, which is here, right? D10. We're going to use the colon button. That creates a range. And then D109. Close that up. And boom. It says A. That does nothing because we didn't tell it what we're counting, right? We just gave it the range. So we go back into the formula. We can extend the arrow or press F1 to expand details. You can see the first part is going to be our range. The second part is so this is only counting numerical values. Ooh, what I should have done is count if. COUNT if this range has the criteria of it being heads. How many times does heads come up? 40 times. That was pretty easy. Alright, so we're going to copy paste this, change this to tails, copy paste this, Control C, Control V. We're going to, oh, you notice when we copy pasted it, it did not keep the columns in D. We moved to E because we're basically shifting it one over, right? So he assumed that we wanted to go over. So sometimes you got to correct that manually. So we can type in D over here and change that up. Or the other way to do it is in this one, we can put a $ in front of the D. And so we're basically saying lock in column D, right? And then when we pre-fill that, whoops, when we pre-fill that over, it's going to stay as column D. But we're not looking for heads, we're looking for tails, so we're just going to switch that up. T-A-I-L-S. And we got exactly 100 minus 40 is 60. So we're spot on that. Now, what do we need to know last? Is the winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Well, we can use something similar in these columns here. So this was comparing just this number here. What we want to do is make an if statement to say if we have more heads than tails, say heads is the winner. Otherwise, say tails is the winner. Right? So we're going to type in winner here. Maybe chuck in a couple of exclamation marks. How about that? We can even add a border around here. There we go. Make it a thick border. That's the color. Make it a thick border. Anyway, let's not play around with that too much. Alright. Okay. Winner. If cell B7 is bigger, so you can see the greater than symbol there. If it's greater than C7, type in heads wins. Otherwise, or else, we want to type in tails wins. Close that bracket up, hit enter, and there we go. We've got tails winning there. We're gonna see that's the formulas we're typing in. All right, tails win. That's our task done. We'll double check if everything is actually working by changing a few of these numbers up. So we're going to change that back to RAND equals RAND. We're going to see, I can't do the double click if there's other things on the bottom, right? So I'm just going to drag all the way down to 100. Whoops. Well over 100. Going to select this. Go to 100 number and delete the rest. And every time we make a change, we should have another game on our hands. So type in here, 1, boom, 48 to 52. Type in here again, 2, 52 to 48. Wow, these are close matches, right? 44 to 56. There we go. And now we're flipping 100 coins and seeing what the results come out of that. So that's really cool. Well, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.